Well, he's got great metabolism.
I got to ask you that. How was it when you were on that side?
Good morning, young man. Amazing how they turn and run in there. We do a lot of work at the Maryland Logic.
I would rather go back down the road.
Now let's talk a little baseball, everybody. You know, I have to admit that my only goal in life up to the age of 21 was to be a Major League Baseball player. My brothers can tell you all about my story there. But it finally hits you, you know, when you're a senior in college at the University of Maryland College Park, and you're sitting on the bench, you finally realize it's probably not going to happen. And it didn't. But I got to tell you what I would have given to play for a manager like Buck Showalter. First of all, before I say a few words of introduction about Buck, I want to say it's really an honor and it's a privilege to have him here with us today. And I know I, along with everybody here, want to thank Buck personally for bringing winning baseball back to Baltimore. We jumped the gun a little bit because I think he deserves a standing ovation. You know, there's so much to say about Buck, and in the short time I had a chance to talk to him, you can see what a great guy he is. But if I had to tell you everything about his accomplishments, we'd probably be here close to game time, and I don't think that would fly too much with Buck. But let me tell you a couple of his accomplishments. He's a two-time Manager of the Year, 1994 with the New York Yankees, 2004 with Texas, a little bit about 10 years there. Now it's 2014. Let's hope we can add that tag too this year with the Orioles. He is the third among active Major League managers in wins with 1,183. That's up until the last win. And he's 43rd of all-time managers of any manager who's ever managed in the major leagues. And here's something that I know a lot of you probably didn't know, because I didn't know it either. Buck was a fantastic, great baseball player in his own right. He was a first-team All-American at Mississippi State University, and he had a batting average of .459, which is a record that still stands today. He's a fifth-round draft pick of the Yankees in 1977, and played 7 seasons in the Yankee organization and batted .294 during that time, which is a pretty darn good record, I can tell you that. You know, we often heard that sports is really a metaphor for life. All the things you learn by growing up. You know, you learn about teamwork, you learn about leadership, you learn about cooperation, you learn about dealing with others, and you learn with dealing with adversity and tough times. But the thing with Buck, the way he manages, you can easily see the correlation to business as well. You see how he conducts himself, especially when he interviews and on the field, how he handles his players, how he creates that winning atmosphere. I think he is truly a master as a manager. And to me, it said it all a couple weeks ago with the situation with Steve Pierce. Steve was put on waivers just because of the numbers. They really like Steve here in Baltimore, but he was put on waivers. And just before he was claimed by Toronto, and then he found out that Steve Davis got hurt, and I guess he knew that the Orioles might bring him back. And the Orioles did bring him back, and you see what he's done in the last 2 weeks. And one of the things he said when he was being interviewed, he goes, I didn't want to go to Toronto. I wanted to stay here in Baltimore. I love the camaraderie. I love the players. I love playing for Buck. And he came back. And when Buck was being interviewed about that, Buck would say, yeah, Steve likes playing here. He sort of likes the atmosphere that the players have created. Well, Buck, you and all of us as business leaders know The players didn't create that winning atmosphere. You created that winning atmosphere, just like each and every one of us in our own organizations. We create that culture that we live with each and every day. And you have created a new winning tradition back here in Baltimore. And please, everybody, welcome the Major League Manager of the Baltimore Orioles, of the first place Baltimore Orioles.
You know, I was talking to our PR director when they initially asked, and you know, it's an honor to be asked to be here. I know I'm representing basically the baseball organization, but also a lot of hopes and dreams of all of us of where we want to be in October. But I got to thinking about the chief executive officers, CEOs. You know, how many people here have been fired, been told their services are no longer rendered or wanted or whatever? It's quite a feeling, isn't it? But then I got to thinking about all the ways they put it in the paper. And I was trying to think of, you can come up with some of them. The one I detest is we're going to go in a different direction. How about the one where he's been relieved of his duties? Yeah, that's true. Or just the fact that he's been let go, or released, or reassigned to a different level. So, you know, I understand my job here. You know, Billy Martin with the Yankees manager a long time ago took me under his wing and said, you know, understand that you're just a ship passing the night to players. A lot of times at 22 to 30, you know, there's a lot of things that we thought we had figured out at that age. He said they're going to warn you for about 5 minutes, and then they're going to wonder who the next guy is coming behind them and how it's going to affect them and their career. So do the right thing. Just do the right thing and know that the test of time. You know, a long time ago, Mr. Steinbrenner called me and asked me to go to a banquet at his place in Tallahassee, Florida. I'll never forget. He never asked any questions. You gotta understand, as an owner, he never said hello on the phone, and he never said goodbye on the phone. You know, the phone rang, you pick it up, you start talking, and real loud and fast, and with some colorful adjectives and click, he was gone. So basically, I picked it up, and so here I take off to Tallahassee, and I had written this long, elaborate speech, and I was really going to try to impress him. And I got there and I asked, you know, who am I speaking to here? There's about 2,000 people. So well, this is an Amway convention. I took my, and hey, God bless Amway, all right? So I threw it away. So I learned my lesson. I hate just, you know, I want to be able to answer what people want to hear. I really would. And, you know, I can sit here and pontificate about life and leadership and whatever, and, you know, and you can take it for whatever it's worth. But when you ask me something that you want to know or curious about, nothing's off limits, because we've got no media here, right? I haven't read the paper since I've been here. I haven't listened to it. If you come into my house with a sporting event on, the volume will be off. And I like the writers and the media. The TV announcers are great, but I just can't interact every day with those people and do what I need to do with the players if I'm sitting there reading and listening to every little critique. And thank God somebody's critiquing it, because it means that we're doing something important. And I get how important the Orioles are to our state and our city. I kind of like getting things that other people don't get. You know, I got Baltimore a long time ago, and this is my last stop. This is the last spot on the rodeo. My wife and I, this is, you know, we could live here, but we were talking about it yesterday, Mother's Day, sitting outside, and we'll see where life takes us. You know, it has a lot of turns along the way, but I like getting Baltimore, and I'm okay if somebody else doesn't get it. I really don't. You know, it's a blue collar, it's a sincere passion for the Orioles, and you know, the only way I equate my day every day is whether or not we have a W at the end of the day. And no one's got to tell us how we're doing. Their standings, their scoreboard, what have you. I'm still frustrated about yesterday. It kills me to get in the car and drive home 2 or 3 hours after the game and see all the people that came down to Baltimore for the game, wearing orange, going around, having dinner, you know, straight to the businesses, and we didn't win. I want them to go home and go, gosh, I had a great time at the ballpark. The food was hot, the ushers were great, the parking was good, and most importantly, the team played well, and we're putting something on the field that they're proud of. You know, some players have a problem with that, with the accountability that comes with doing this. I tell them all the time, you're out in Seattle and we're playing on the West Coast and someone's up with us in the 9th inning of a tie ball game. You know, if you don't like that responsibility, you're probably playing for the wrong team. You know, you have to understand that people live and die with everything you're doing. And if you can't bring that, then you probably need to go play for somebody else. And trust me, they will along the way. So if they don't bleed a little black and orange along the way, we'll show you why you should. And we think we have something, we try to keep it under wraps a little bit. I like getting something everybody else doesn't get. But now we've got a place that people are calling us about coming to. And they're starting to figure out, when I first started coming in here years ago, when you couldn't get a ticket here, it was pretty special. And people still talk about the sound of our ballpark in 2012. We had a couple of hiccups last year towards the end of the season, and you're going to have people hurt along the way. Wieters was down for a couple of weeks. Hopefully Chris Davis was down for a couple of weeks. Manny was down for a month. That's part of the gig. Nobody said it was going to be easy, and nobody cares about our problems. They're all happy we have them. The other teams, they're real happy we have them. So, bring it on. I don't want to hear any excuses. Our guys know that that's not something we talk about in the clubhouse. And compared to people in regular walks of life and business and 9 to 5, we got it real good. Somebody said we had to play 11 o'clock game in the morning after a night game in Boston. I tell them we travel on great planes. Our ownership makes sure we're first class everywhere, hotels, the food. I said, people really don't want to hear that you only got 4 hours sleep before a day game in Boston. Really. Suck it up. Grab another cup of coffee and let's go rub a little salt on the wound plate. And they know I don't want to hear that. I'd love to answer your question. That's more important to me. I'd love to hear what you want to hear about the Orioles, and everything's on limits. If it's not, I'll give you the hand. We can hear. All right, either way, I can hear a little bit.
100 pitch limit. Why are we into this 100 pitch limit?
Are you in it? I'm not in it. Well, we got a pretty good background on where all, some of them fall differently. Killing doesn't fall there. Jimenez doesn't fall there. It's somewhere between 90 and 100 as you look over, but a lot of it is the stressfulness of it. Everybody talks about back then. Nobody's got more respect for back then than me. We sometimes confuse change with a lack of respect for tradition. But they talk about, back then we threw 140 pitches, everything. Well, they didn't play until they were about 31, 32. If you look at the life of their arms, let's put it, face it, putting your arm over your head and jerk it down violently once every 5th day, 120 times is not what the good Lord had in store for us. That's why we walk around like this. We don't walk around like this. Softball pitchers, you ever see them get swarm? No. Darren O'Day, I can throw him every day that he comes. So, yeah, we can leave them out there for 140 pitches, and then you would be mad at me because he couldn't pitch anymore. So, if as things get into it, we have better cars than we used to have. We have better medicine than we used to have. We have a better idea of what causes injuries and surgeries. We make a commitment to a player, which is really making a commitment to our fan base for, say, Jimenez. Well, I have to protect that investment. I have to protect it for the fans. Because if I'm being reckless with it and he's hurt, or if I'm using Tommy Hunter 4 or 5 days in a row and he's hurt, then I have mismanaged valuable assets for our fan base. So I'm very adamant about, one, trying to keep people healthy. Yeah, I could let them pitch 140 pitches in April, May. They wouldn't be able to scratch their behind in August. We wouldn't be very good. Yes, sir.
Well, first of all, I think you're the best manager since Earl Weaver.
I'm going to use this when he's done.
Okay, thanks.
That's some heavy company. Although we still missing.
But let me ask you something.
Y'all can hear. Take the mic away. We have no trouble here in meeting.
I know you talk to Dan DeKett a lot, and I know it's another year or so. But are we going to try to sign JJ and Chris and Wieters next year?
Well, we've been trying. It's not like we're just letting it go there. There's such a fine line between staying focused on the season at hand. I can give you about 10 examples of the support ownership's been. First of all, we did sign Matt Wieters originally, and we were willing to take him in the draft and pay him the money a lot of clubs weren't willing to do.
Absolutely.
Dick Markakis, same boat. Okay, center fielder Adam Jones. Our shortstop signed a 3-year contract. That's why he's here to start with. Chris Davis, the commitment we made to him in arbitration at well over $10 million. Manny Machado's signing bonus. There were 3 clubs that passed on him because it was so expensive. Believe me, our ownership hasn't blinked when it comes to those things. But it's, who are you? I think one of the things that I came here, obviously they interviewed me, and I was kind of interviewing them. I had some other options, and I kept asking, who are we? Who are we? How are we going to do this? How are we going to, we need to quit confusing our fans on who we are. All of a sudden we're talking about Mark Teixeira, but yet we can't sign, a utility. I mean, it's confusing. Who are we? Let's be consistent. I mean, our players now know when a player's available or something, because more of makeup and some other things, they'll go, well, he'll be fine there and be a pretty good statistical player, but he can't play in Baltimore. Not the way we want to play the game and the way we want to present it. So, we're going to make quality offers that fit in the system and the industry, but at what price? It's like Chris was talking to me the other day at first base. I've known Chris for a while, and he says, Buck, I'm not going to be as hard as a lot of people think to sign. I'm not trying to break the bank or whatever. I said, Chris, that's your business. Whatever. I'm your baseball manager. But I'll ask you one question: how much is enough? How much is enough?
Right.
At some point in my life, I made $1 million in 1 year, and it's sinful. When I can go into Target and buy anything I want, it's sinful. Okay? So I said, Chris, understand how much is enough. You love it here. You tell me your wife's here. You're getting ready to have your first baby here. You make that decision. The difference between $15 million a year and $14 million a year. Please spare me. I was 27 one time. Would you like to have your whole life basically judged on your worst decision? I wouldn't. Man, I did some stupid things. So, Chris, we'll see what kind of, a lot of these guys get such advice every day from so many people. You really, when you're looking at a player to acquire, you look at the surrounding group. Is anybody calling BS? Is anybody a voice of reality? Thank God I had a father that wanted to be my father, not my pal. There were some times when it got heavy, but he held me to a certain standard. So that's not good enough. He was also the principal at the high school. That was real tough. Yes, sir.
Buck, first of all, it's an honor. Two real quick things about Manny. I'm a really big fan of his. And Trout and Bryce Harper get all of the acknowledgement, but I just think that this kid has got the potential, even though he started off rough this year, coming back from the injury, to be just as good as him. Your thoughts on that? And second of all, I was wondering if down the road there were plans for Manny at shortstop.
Well, a lot of some dynamics. I always want to have some wiggle room. Your second question, ways to go. You don't want to get painted in a corner. Who knows? If you look at the shortstop market, there's a guy that's retiring in New York. At some point, if JJ is going to want X amount for 5 years, we're not going to get into, the Yankees are going to give him 4 or 5 years. Well, that's, I love JJ. We all do. We want him here, and we are an above average defensive team, and we have the infield with the way it is. Manny can play shortstop. He's only going to get better. He can play it. He can play it well. Where he ends up, it's a work in progress with him physically. It's no longer a physical decision. I mean, it's a baseball, what's going on with him right now. He's going to be fine. I thought about dropping him down to Orr a little bit and let him get his, we'll see how the next few days go. But what was the first part of your question? I'm 59, I can't think.
Harper and Trout, and I think that he's in their potential.
One thing I'm unhappy with Manny about is he dropped Under Armour and went to Nike. He shouldn't have dropped it over. But he, of course, money, I guess. But he, the thing about all of those guys is they're plus defenders. That when we bring up a young player from our system, you're going to go through periods where you're trying to figure out offensively. Your ability to defend allows me to put you on the field. If you're not driving an inning, you're letting 2 in. That's bad math. That's right. That's bad math. People, Earl and I used to talk about it. People talk about the 3-run homer and the pitching and whatever. He said, Buck, we called the ball. And Mark Belanger, a lot of people don't realize how good Boog was at first base. There was a guy at third that was pretty good too. Center fielder and Blair, and Bumbry was a quality outfielder. Frank Robinson was pretty good. I go around down the line, and those are common denominators. You got to catch it. It may not be sexy, catching it all the time, but in the American League East, you can't just make the routine plays. You have to be able to turn hits into outs. And you better get 2 outs with 1 pitch with a double play. Jonathan Scope's a lot like Manny. He's going to defend and turn the double play as well as anybody in the American League while he's figuring it out. Manny's 22 years old. They're basically first year out of college. Scope's 22 years old. He's also 6'3", 230. You know, he's got muscles in his you know what. I like Scope. You're going to like him, I tell you. If you watch this kid do interviews and whatever, and that's part of the culture. You know, they watch how J.J. Hardy handles himself, and Wieters and Chris, and there's a culture of understanding how you're supposed to present yourself. And trust me, in the locker room, if they get out of line and start taking themselves a little too seriously, there's nothing better than peer pressure. There's nothing. If you got the right peer pressure, you got a chance. Yes, sir.
I was trying to think of a question that would somehow relate business and baseball, but I can't. So I'm just going to ask you a baseball question.
We play a game.
No, it does. I just can't.
What you do, I mean, you're affecting so many people's lives with every decision you make that work for you. You know, the day before, like I had to send McFarland out last night after the game because we needed a long reliever for the day. Detroit's primarily right-handed. Left-handed doesn't play. You got to think in advance. But I'm sitting there, I'm getting ready to talk to this guy. I went in and shaved, cleaned up, because I don't want to sit there with bleary eyes and have this guy think, geez, he hung over, he cared all about me. You're making a presentation to somebody about their life, spring training. You know, we had 60-something players in camp this year. I mean, I had 40 people I had to talk about their lives that they're going down. So, yeah, I take a little extra time. It's you know, I have a shaving rash a lot, but I want them to think that I've been thinking about, you know, their lives, their families, their kids, their wives, their parents, that, you know, this affects them. I mean, he's headed off to Norfolk today. How's that?
Awesome. That's awesome. Well, what I meant was I really have a baseball question I want to ask you, but that's what I want. Well, so it was interesting. Someone talked about pitch limit, you know, per game, and obviously no one's completing games anymore. So, you know, starting pitchers.
Evaluate pitchers purely on how many pitches they throw.
Right.
You know, and I get it. You know, there's nobody like, you know, you talk to Nolan Ryan, some of the old timers, Jim Palmer, but also look at how short their careers were. You know, some of these guys that threw forever, and then you go, geez, they didn't play till they were like 31. If you get a player from Asia, from Japan, you better get him before he's 30, because those guys are totally abused. You know, over there, more is always better. You know, and they throw 147 pitches, the next day they're in the bullpen working on something. And that's why they can't scratch their rear when they're 40 years old.
I agree. And so you know a pitcher's going to come out of the game at some point at 6th, 7th inning. It seems to me the sooner you can get your starting pitcher out of the game, the better.
I don't want to go out there.
Exactly. So I'm wondering, you know, and I think fans always kind of wondered about this. Yesterday I saw a stat that said for pitches per plate appearance, we're actually last in the American League. I forget what the numbers were. Offensively. Offensively, our team is last in the American League as far as how many pitches per per plate appearance that they see, which I think is one of the biggest factors in getting a starting pitcher out there. If you're out of the game, if you can make them throw more pitches. What is that about our team that it seems like these guys are always sort of aggressive?
You know, the problem with a lot of the sabermetrics that come in, and I take it all in. I want to know, you know, I have a gut, like I'm going to make a pitching rotation change probably the next couple of days because I got a gut about it that's been verified by the sabermetrics. I don't want my gut to be developed by a number. I want to start there and then be verified. But you can't take until you hit. It's impossible. You got a quarter of a second from release point to recognize pitch. You can't go take, try to hit. It's always hit until you take. You've got to be in hit mode, and if you try to slow that process down too much, I mean, the ball's moving, I mean, the arm strength today, 94 to 95 miles an hour. So, like Adam Jones, I know people get frustrated with Adam because the guy had 30 home runs, drove in 100 runs, and all of a sudden, and almost hit close to 300, played Gold Glove center field defense. So if I go to him about, you know, we want this robotic, perfect player, boy, if you take that away from Adam, that he's slashing and burning, and every day is a good day, he's energetic, he brings some things to our dugout clubhouse that we need, he keeps us from getting stale. Players, you know, well, you didn't like that book? You didn't like last year? You want me to do this and that? Yeah, we talk about it privately. He knows how to. I said, they don't get you out. You get yourself out. Very few pitchers in the American League pitch in the strike zone get people out. What they do, they make a living out of making a pitch appear that's going to be in the strike zone and move out. The guy yesterday, I knew was going to be a trouble for us, but he throws a cutter. It's a late recognition fastball that looks like a fastball to about 2 feet in front of the plate, and then slides off the barrel of the bat. And you saw a lot of weak contact. When you see a lot of weak contact, that's usually a cutter that has late life at the end of the pitch. It's frustrating because I'm sitting there, geez, why are you swinging at that pitch? Well, it's a challenge for our guys. You like the end game, but it's frustrating getting there sometimes. So, you want to be appreciative of what they bring, but you also want to hold them to a standard that might be another level they can get to. Yes, ma'am.
2 questions, both
All right.
pitching. Thoughts on Philly's last 2 starts?
You were there.
I was there.
So we know the problem is you going, don't go next.
My winning percentage is much higher, I promise. And second question, Johan Santana, ETA?
Oh, Johan had a surgery that there's only one guy ever come back from, that came back from, and it was Saberhagen. It's in the front of the shoulder. And I think he will pitch for us at some point. He's up to, we're just trying to get enough differential, but you're looking for a 10-mile-an-hour differential between the fastball and the changeup. And he's almost there now, and but he's pitching on 5 and 6 days. If he gets here, I think he's going to be a once every 6-day guy if we want to keep him healthy. His recovery time, outstanding human being. This guy, you talking about fit on the club, you're going to love what he brings. Great teammate, winning person. It's just whether his arm will let him do it. This guy's not 40. He's 34, 35 years old. Cy Young winner. He actually pitched in a no-hitter at 88, 89 miles an hour. Because of the changeup, it's going to play up here. If we can get his fastball consistently to that 88 to 89 mile-an-hour range, he will be effective up here. Great athlete, fills the position, holds runners, throws strikes. But I can't talk about it a lot in front of our players because there are 5 pitchers, so what message is that sending to them? They're talking about Chris Davis coming off the DL, can't wait to get him back. Well, that's a reflection on Steve Pierce. The only reason Steve came back here is because he trusted us. How'd you like to walk away from $750,000, which he did, and he trusted the Orioles that we would re-sign him, and he could have easily gone to Toronto or Oakland. As tough as that would have been. Anybody been to Toronto or Oakland? Till he'd be fine. Till he cares so much. He does, and he's the one guy, makeup-wise, he gets it. I cannot tell you how frustrated he is like that. He has an unorthodox delivery that will get out of sync. It's a lot like Jimenez, but it's also part of the deception of the delivery. Okay, you want to make him perfect over the top, Iron Mike. He'd throw a strike every time, but they'd have to get all the married men off the infield. Balls being hit so hard. So part of the reason why they're successful, is because they're unorthodox. So all of a sudden, guys don't see them well. They're funky in the back with their arms swinging and everything. You've got to be careful about making these guys so robotic, and all of a sudden you take away their individualism, their presentation to the hitters. We had a pitcher a long time ago named Mark Hutton with the Yankees, through 96, 97, all arms and legs, everything. Had a little trouble throwing strikes, but nobody ever hit him. Well, the pitching coach got a hold of him, squared him up. He was nice and pretty over the top. Well, they didn't miss him. They squared up everything he threw. So you got to be careful about robbing Peter to play Paul. Yes, sir.
Buck, thanks for bringing winning back to Baltimore, too. I think we all...
I better players than the guys before me. I appreciate that. It's good management, coaches, good players.
Good players.
I've had great support from our ownership, and that should go without.
Our question over here is outside of baseball. We were wondering if you're still getting residuals from the Seinfeld episodes.
About the cotton uniforms, I'm still on them. But a long time ago, we were playing the Angels, and I came home, the kids were, I said, I got the strange call. I said, they want me to be on some show called Seinfeld or something. And they went, oh, Dad, you got to do it, it's real popular. I don't know. So I ended up doing it. I had one line, it didn't hurt anything, but in order to do it, you had to join the Actors Guild. You had to, something else. Long story short, every time somebody says they saw that episode, I know it cost me $19.48 in taxes. So every time somebody says, hey, I saw the Seinfeld show, I go, oh, shoot, there's another income tax return. Yes.
No, one comment, one question. First, I always admire how calm you seem in the dugout.
Got you fooled.
Well, that kind of segues into the question, and then the news conferences afterwards, I don't usually watch those, but I just think the way you handle the press and the players and that process is pretty impressive. I guess the question is, how do you stand in the dugout, 80 degrees, 90 degrees, with the jacket on, it's scalding hot, and you just look so cool, calm, and collected?
First of all, you don't handle the press. I haven't liked the kind of give and take with them. They're all sharp. They're trying to do a job. You try to understand that they're trying to bring something that their people are asking them to bring. You know, I tell them all the time, if you care about being right, I will never let you be wrong. Because I want you to be a conduit to, you know, the fans, and they kind of know there's some things I won't be able to tell you. You know, you'll say something if I'm not, you know, I don't want to tell truths that hurt innocent people. But, you know, that's always tough for them when I go, if you care about being right, I'll never let you be wrong in the paper or whatever. Well, that puts a lot of heat on them there. So when I know that they don't come ask me would they be right, then they're probably marking us. The jacket thing, you know, years ago when I started with the Yankees, I didn't get a jersey. They forgot my jersey opening day. A little bit of a reminder that how quickly it can be taken away. Quite frankly, it's a lot more comfortable than the double knit jerseys. And, you know, it's real thin. It's actually thinner than the jerseys, and it's a lot cooler. And I have to wear a jersey every once in a while because they auction them off. You got to sign them, and if you don't wear them one day, they're not authentic. So
what do you mean? Just a T-shirt or nothing?
I'm not telling what I got. What do you got underneath there? You want to talk about what they got on underneath? Yes, sir.
What's your leadership style, and how did you change that culture?
With the Orioles, because we can remember when we had money and the free agents wouldn't even come, they didn't even want the money, it was funny money or something. What's your leadership style? And
it's always a work in progress. Everything, you don't, I changed to the situation we need. You know, this year's situation is different than last year's. You better, you know, gosh, we all learn from life's exposures and try to, you know, I learned more from managers I had about what not to do. When, you know, everybody wants to say, who's the guy you learned this from the most, but I learned more from guys about what not to do, you know, from playing and what have you know, instead of the guys that are always, you know, it's the good cop, bad cop. I'm so big about who we allow. You know, we can bring in a John Scope and a Manny Machado. Some of these guys maybe a tad before they're ready because of the people we can surround them with. That's big. So I do fight for those certain makeup guys that are going to create that culture. But if you don't, you're going to pay that piper. But it's their locker room. It's not mine. You know, what do you choose to be about? You know, what do you want? What's important? No, hold on. Instead of lip service, what do you really? We have this meeting every spring, and we talk about it. What are you willing to do to get us from where we are, where we want to be? And then everybody's going to talk to us. We're going to find out. You know, your actions speak so loudly, I can't hear a word you're saying. This ain't about words. This is about action. And you know, everybody tries to do it. These are the best 30 baseball teams in the world. These are the best baseball players in the world. These are the best coaches, the best trainers. And it's competitive. And that's why it's so satisfying if you can do it. And it's not for the weak of heart, weak of knees. You're going to, you know, it's not a woe is me thing. I'm still ticked off about yesterday. I hate losses. God, they killed me. But it was Mother's Day, so I had to suck it up and go home. My mother, I called her early in the morning because she knew I wouldn't call her. We didn't have a good day. She didn't either. She gets ticked off. She can read lips too, so I'm real careful about arguing. Yes, sir.
Here you go.
Doug, we can hear you. I hear you. There's one outside.
Deep death, as Earl used to say, and you're saying you have it now, and that brings up the point. We have this constant conversation. You obviously really love Jonathan. That was from day one. You really see something in this kid.
He can defend. He can turn the double play. And the rest of it, and I can't teach you to have good genes from your mom and daddy. You know, I can't, you know, if I could spend some time with guys, and I do. I spend a lot of time with Manny's mothers and Weeder's mom and dad. You don't make good decisions, sit down with their mother and father. You get a pretty good idea what you're going to get.
Well, having said that, I know Steve Lombardozzi pretty well, the dad.
Great kid.
So you have Flaherty, you've got Stevie, you've got Jonathan. I mean, that's some quality when you need some defenders. You got young Steve down in the minor leagues now. Is he gone? Is he?
Heavens no. You know what?
I mean, he's batting 300. So we have over beer. We sit there and go, why would you play Flaherty over Steve when Steve can bat 3?
Well, the ability in order to carry some extra pitchers now and then to cover ourselves, the ability to defend at more than one position. Jonathan can play 3 spots. Flaherty can play 6 spots. Where we are with some other things. Stevie can play a little outfield, can play a little third. Short's a little bit of a challenge for him, but we like him. Switch hitter, better left-handed hitter, but not an out right-handed. Had options. Still 24, 25 years old. Sometimes when they have options, some guys don't. Of course, Jonathan has options too. If you think about where you think the ceiling is on somebody who's got a chance to have the highest ceiling, Steve's going to play in the big leagues a long time. I actually had his uncle, Chris Lumber, with the Yankees, left-handed third baseman at the University of Florida years ago. And they're baseball players. They're always going to survive. You're always going to want them on your club because they're smart, they care, and they're gym rats. They know, they get the game within the game. You watch a player when he's not playing on the bench and they're watching the game, as opposed to some starting pitchers that they're in another world. And Steve's engaging. I like him, but we got into a little number crunch. Let's put it this way, if he didn't have options, he'd still be here. And that will change one day, and he's going to have a long, good career because he's so versatile in the things he brings.
I'll tell his dad.
Pardon?
I'll tell his dad
I
for
like
him.
his dad, too. What I like him most of the time is a lot like his dad. His dad was a good player.
Yeah.
His dad would beat you.
Buck, best Steinbrenner story, or one that you can tell. One that you can tell.
One that I can tell.
Buddy, how are you, pal?
I don't know how close we all are here. No, I don't know, we were playing Cleveland. Dennis Martinez was pitching for Cleveland, and he was cheating. We knew he was cheating. He had some grease in his hair, and he was going back there. We knew coming in the series that he cheats. And we had pitching for us Bob Wickman, who had his index finger, the tip cut off in a dairy accident back in Milwaukee years ago, and I used it as an excuse between us girls as why his ball sank so much. Well, Bob could sweat in the middle of a winter tundra. This guy could sweat from Milwaukee, and he cheated too. Okay, Bob was about 20. He's like, I cheat. I don't know. That's a bad word. They were using some bodily substance to make the ball do things that it doesn't normally do.
Cheating.
That's one way. So it was on national TV. Joe Morgan was doing the game, and I guess he was showing how Dennis Martinez was cheating to the whole world and everything. So sure enough, the phone rings in the dugout. We had this red bat phone over there. So I didn't ever answer. The trainer, Gene Monahan, went down and picked it up. And he picked it up. You remember, no hello or goodbye. Just start screaming. He's holding it out here, and he goes, "Pop, it's for you." I go, "No, no, no." "Fuck, it's for you." No. So finally, this guy's going to get fired if he doesn't give him a phone. So I go, "Yes, sir." He said, "You got to be the dumbest blankety blank in the world of baseball. The whole baseball world, the whole country knows Martinez is cheating. You're sitting over there with your thumb somewhere where it shouldn't be." And I said, "Mr. Steiner, are you done?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Well, who's pitching for us tonight?" We were ahead 3-1 at the time of the 8th inning. He goes, "Well, Wickman is. Of course, I don't know what's gotten into him tonight. He's actually pitching well. I don't know." I said, "Well, you got to understand something. Our guy is cheating better than their guy." I said, "So what do you want me to do? Because if I go check Dennis Martinez, Hargrove's going to come check Wickman, and we got a problem. What do you want me to do?" "Shh, just handle it." Bang. So that's about the cleanest one I got. He offered me an opportunity to get in the game and support my family for 19 years, and I'll be eternally grateful. He got me. We actually got along pretty good, all things considered, and he was passionate about winning and wanting people to be accountable of what they were hired to do. I don't have a problem with that. I'm sorry.
Yes, sir, thank you. Instant replay.
Yep.
Based on what you've seen so far this year, you like it, and where should it go in the future?
What do y'all think? I mean, who cares what we think? I mean, as the fans, we wanted you to be able to get at the ballpark anything they can get on TV at home. Now, some of the timing, I understand this isn't the finished product. A lot of people forget in the NFL, they shut it down for 2 years the first time they tried it. I think we're well ahead of them. I think it'll be expanded as far as what's reviewable. But it's a work in progress. We've already tweaked some things that we all knew from field personnel they had wrong in the spring when they were trying to tell us about the transfer plate. So that's not going to go along. Blocking the plate, home plate, they had to tweak that. Could you imagine watching a college or pro football game right now without instant replay? It's become part of almost the entertainment. We're not there yet. I don't find, you know what I miss? I miss arguing with umpires. Man, really, I end up arguing more with my wife now.
Well, we wish we had instant replay when you had some outfielder named Jeffrey Mayer.
Yeah. I wish we had one in New York last year when Nate McLeod's home, year before last, when Nate McLeod's home run, Nick the foul pole, would have still whipped their ass. What else? Yes, sir.
I'm in the technology conference. I got a question regarding technology. I'm curious to know how much geek stuff is going on behind the scenes. How much geek stuff, entering data into a computer. People's, like, this guy's hitting a curveball in this direction, this guy's hitting this ball. How much is that is being done and handed to you, and you look at it and say, you go to the pitcher and say, okay, this guy we want to pitch all inside, this guy we want to pitch all outside. Is there a tremendous amount of geek data going on?
I would call it geek data. I think that's being a little unfair to the people that, we got some really bright people that put that together, and I look at everything. I want everything. The key is to make it comfortable for them to bring that. And you walk into a locker room, you've got 6 coaches, some grizzled, 20-year major league veterans that, don't really, the key is for me we teach a class in the spring, we go over all these stats, WOBA, UZR ratings, everything, and say, now make these, who you call geeks, I don't get up in front and make a presentation, explain it to Terry Crowley, explain it to Brooks Robinson. And they go, well, we got the UZR, go stop. What does U stand for? What does Z stand for? What does R stand for? Well, we got the WOBA, weighted on base average. I said, okay, what does it tell you? Okay, now what does it not tell you? Now, we would ask them some questions that only come from the knowledge you have from being in the dugout, on the field, in the locker room. So you got to bridge the gap of these two things and make this group feel comfortable presenting to this group feel comfortable putting that. So that it's the leadership of making both parties feel comfortable. We all question the things we don't understand. There's a lot of that stuff I didn't understand. I said, all right, help me. Then I found out that they're not as smart as they think they are. It's not exactly Braille. Okay, so, but players don't like the feeling that you completely evaluate them statistically. They want to know that you get some of the other things they bring. Does their finger shake on the trigger in the 9th inning? There's some other things that come into play here other than just, otherwise, how boring would it be if you knew how everything comes out, was going to turn out? I tell the media a lot, I go, why are there 20,000 people here tonight? You got Tanaka pitching against our 5th starter. Well, the stats, everything say, we got no chance. It's over. Why are we even playing a game? Why they come out here? Because there's a chance that you might be wrong statistically. Can you imagine how boring it is if everything followed the point spread? I came out of Yankee Stadium, I had this guy used to jump out and ask me how the guy was feeling tomorrow, the pitcher. I didn't think anything of it. I was 35 years old, and finally hit me. He was a bookie. I try to keep that in play. But you can't predict a game. How boring would it be if you could? We all try to. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts around youth in sports and overuse injuries?
Don't get me going. That's a real sore point for me. We're seeing so many surgeries now with 14, 15, 16-year-old kids. Are you kidding me? The travel baseball, I'm just going to tell you, God bless everybody, but it's a mistake. The human body wasn't, especially when growth platelets aren't closed, was not designed to pitch 9 to 12 months a year or to play the game. We all say back when I played, I try not to do that with the players, but, I played 3 sports. I graduated 38 people in my high school class. You had to hustle for a prom date, I'm telling you. It was the smallest public school in the state of Florida, Northwest Florida, but we played football, baseball, basketball. The body, where else do you learn how to fall?